The tiny house movement, which started in the US, is attracting more and more Australians to the idea of living with less. But while the houses are small, advocates argue the bureaucratic hurdles they face are large. Bec Whetham reports.
Peter Willems has wanted to build his own home since he was a teenager. So he decided to start small. Really small, just 30 square metres.
There's a lot of humour around building a tiny home. You'll hear lots of interesting comments about, did I get it from Toys R Us? Does it come in a flat pack?
He's part of a growing tiny house movement in Australia. This will be his permanent dwelling, but don't be fooled by its diminutive size. For $50,000, a double bed, balcony and walk-in wardrobe are just some of the features he's built in.
It's a full queen-size bed, and there'll be opening windows either side.
There's a lot of work involved in building a tiny house, but the biggest challenge is getting approval to live in it.
Tiny houses on wheels particularly are not caught by the building legislation, so they're not, don't have building permits. They're kind of treated as caravans, which means there's a limited time people can actually stay on their properties and live in it. You can actually write to your council and ask for an exemption to that, but it does require a little bit more work than building an actual house.
Many aspiring tiny home owners have turned to business partners Valerie Bears and Ricky Peters for help. But a huge part of their work now is trying to convince councils about the benefits of tiny houses on wheels.
There's pressure on many sides for councils to really look at tiny houses, and I think I think over the next 12 months we'll really see some progress being made.
Councils aren't the only issue. The lack of legislation covering tiny houses means that professional builders can be unwilling to make them. And that means that would-be tiny home owners have to first become tiny home builders. Peter Willems is often joined on his regular working bees by other tiny home hopefuls. He gets their labour, they get some tips.
I recognised very early on that in the tiny house community there's a lot of people who want to live in a tiny home, but they're just afraid. They don't understand the building process.
Until the rules change, Peter has organised to park his new life at a friend's place in the country. Bec Whetham, ABC News, Adelaide.